Roseanne, you okay? I'm good. All right. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Conservation Commission Inland Wetlands Agency to order at June 9th, 2022 at 6:31. Echo Lake Road. Roll call, Ned?
Craig Palmer,
Here.
Tom Murphy, Ned Dalton here, Joe Paletta, George Tupans, Luigi Cavallo, Pierre Moran, Charles Bellevaux, Scott Tierman, Ed Norton.
George Tupans.
Say here.
Say here. Public participation, anybody from the public wishing?
Mr. Chairman, before you do that, do you want to sit Mr. Norman
Yes,
Tom or Joe.
for Joe Plata?
Joe
Or-
Plata. Public participation, anybody from the public?
Mr. Chairman, if nobody else wants to say anything, I wanted to add an application on the agenda. It should be application number 2020-15. No, 2022-15 for transfer of permit number 2020-15 located at 542 Davis Street for transfer of a permit from Eric Markowitz, APM Development LLC to Moron Development LLC.
That goes under pending applications or under,
This will be a new application. Can be item under new applicant item 1.
somebody want to make that a motion? Yeah,
Make a motion to put permit 2022-15 at 542 Davis Street on the agenda for today as a transfer permit.
motion made and second. Any questions? All in favor? All opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. Thank you. Action on the minutes. In your packet, was emailed to you, the regular meeting of April 12th, April 21st, 2022, and the regular meeting, May 12th, 2022. Did everybody receive the minutes?
Yes.
Any corrections or changes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
Motion made and second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor? All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Pending application 2022-5 of Dennis O'Sullivan for the subdivision of a parcel of land into 2 building lots and construction of 2 single-family homes, driveways, and on-site septic systems located on the corner of Smith Pond Road and Northfield Road, Watertown, Connecticut. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I don't know if Moose, if you wanted to start or from Paul. Paul, you sent us a note on June 2nd, 2022 of the review of this.
I did send one today, dated today, Mr. Chairman, also June 9th, saying that Mr. O'Sullivan had pretty
Okay, I
much,
got it. Sorry.
Yeah. Mr. O'Sullivan had complied with all my requests on numbering the lots, changing a few items on the southerly culvert, adding a northerly culvert to divert the water course away from the leaching fields.
Roseanne, you got,
He
Go ahead, sir.
added the wetland flags, added the additional wetland flags by Scott Stevens onto the plan, and added the roof and footing drain outlets from each lot, but he didn't provide any calculations for zero increase in runoff from the impervious areas. I said that's, at this point, if you can just stipulate that in the motion for future time and when the actual plot plans are submitted for construction, which is fine by me.
Any other comments, Paul, or we had the.
Other than
sidewalk?
what we saw on the field walk, an hour ago, obviously there's very little, this is very tight site between the water main, the Waterbury, the water main easement, setbacks from the road, the wetlands, which, Bob Smith, I did speak, and Musa can verify this, spoke with Bob Smith today. He did sign off on the septic, which we were concerned about the separating distance from the wetlands, but he said that's not strictly maintain their old 75-foot requirement. It's up to soil conditions, testing, and other topography, other factors. So Bob just came back from vacation today. He said he didn't have time to write something, but I can verify that he and said Musa and I both spoke. He verified his approval of this, what's now lot 1, the east lot on this proposed 2-lot subdivision, Mr. O'Sullivan.
Thank you, Paul. Musa, do you have any comments or clarification?
Mr. Chairman, I think this is a tough piece of property to develop, but it meets all the zoning requirements for 2 lots from the size perspective, frontage, and everything else. There are some wetlands on the property, and it's not easy to develop. I mean, if the only recommendation that I have, in addition to what Paul said, if Mr. O'Sullivan put a conservation easement in the middle of this property, from the boundary of the Waterbury easement area to the stone wall for lot B, lot 2. That area, you're not proposing anything, and it is a steep slope, and there are 2 water courses going through that area. Other than that, I don't have any other recommendation, but that easement should be given to the town, a conservation easement. And when you go to the Planning and Zoning Commission, they can accept that as an open space for this subdivision. You don't have to provide open space. This commission will recommend to the Planning and Zoning Commission that the commission accept the conservation easement as an open space for the 2-lot subdivision. That will be my only recommendation. Anyway, you are not proposing any activity within those areas, and it is tough to use it anyway. And there are 2 wetlands going through that entire width of the property. It's better to put a conservation easement on it for future buyers, that they understand that they cannot do anything within those areas.
Yes, okay, not a problem at all.
Any other questions from commissioners on this?
How are we gonna delineate the conservation of the wetland?
On the,
One side has a wall.
I will write that from the boundary of the Waterbury easement to the stone wall on lot 2.
No one knows where the boundary is.
Then when they provide that to the town, the conservation document, then they will provide the boundaries, that exactly how many feet on this side, how many feet on the other side.
How is the buyer of the property gonna know that, so we don't get into problems like we've gotten in the past?
It will be on the subdivision map when they submit it to the Planning and Zoning Commission. It will be delineated that area is the conservation.
We need to mark it, like.
Right. Don't use
We've
proposed,
had
right?
people
There will
do
be-
walls,
there will be
we've had people do
markers there.
Markers,
There will be markers.
All right, so we need to have that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
We don't want problems like.
When
we
I
had on
issue the
Sterling Road.
permit, and the permit, I will explain that how they are going to mark that every 50 feet, they have to put one of those markers. If there is trees, they can put it on the trees. If there is no trees, they have to put 4x4 posts in the ground and put a marker on the post.
Musa, when is there an updated map provided? It seems like there's something missing here. Shouldn't there be a?
Okay. This is the latest map. The only changes on this map, if you are looking for, is those comments that Paul Benovich recommended, those changes, and Mr. O'Sullivan provided those comments on these maps. The memo that we gave it to you tonight, that explains that those are the changes on the map. Like the two lots are numbered now, lot 1 and 2, before it was lot east and west. And then the southerly culvert on lot 1 has been modified to reflect the comments of Mr. Benovich on his memo of dated 6/2/22. And a northerly culvert has been added to the plan on lot 1. And also the additional wetland flags set by Scott Stevens have been added to the plan. There's only few wetland flags numbers there. And the footing drains and roof drains for both lots shown that it will be discharged on each lot. And as Paul said, when Mr. O'Sullivan goes to the Planning and Zoning Commission, at that time, there has to be like a detailed subdivision map with all these recommendations that we make, including the conservation easement, has to be shown on the map. And they should put a note that this will be the open space for this subdivision.
Okay, that's where it seems that sometimes there's a problem with that, but there's no question that gets done.
No,
And no, well, you said it does, it gets puts on the map, so everybody knows there's a conservation easement.
definitely it will be in the deed for each lot. Like the buyers will know that which part of the property they cannot use.
Can I make just one comment, Mr. Chairman, in regards to Moose's comments about the conservation easement? The stone wall on lot 2 does not extend all the way to Smith Pond Road on the southerly boundary. I would suggest connecting that end of that wall to the wetland flag 101, which is right at the street line, and that would complete the conservation.
With a wall,
I'm sorry?
continue that wall.
Yeah, well, I mean, the wall, there's a gap of
Yeah.
like 40, 50 feet.
Right, that
but
should be-
that would tie into the end of that,
Stone,
the west wetland line. Just a minor point.
Basically, the entire width of the parcel will be conservation easement.
right, but there'll be a stone
From-
wall will be completed there with Paul said. Block that off.
Do you want the stone wall to be?
It's up, probably a good idea, just so that you say, oh, the end of the stone wall, and we can do, you know.
It's
Okay.
only a
an
short,
extra
it's only a
boundary, yeah.
short section.
So-
Just a short
okay.
section, yeah, just a 2 foot high by 2 stone wall. Extended to Smith Pond Road at the, over lot 2 to complete the conservation easement boundary.
Makes sense.
That one, the driveway is 25 feet from the wetlands. Right,
Which lot?
right here. On lot 2,
Yes.
lot 2. Let's don't see how we're. The house has no garage on it. It's not gonna end up what this is. I think we're gonna end up with a lot more impact on this lot into the wetlands than it's showing.
That's on what, west
Lot 2.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
I think there is no wetland activity. There will be activities within the
Upland
upland
review,
review area.
right.
Yes.
I think all the more reason to continue the stone wall so that
Right.
there's a definite demarcation between the wetlands and the upland.
Any other questions from the commission on this? No, Paul, if those are paved driveways, there's infiltrators or what is required?
If they pave them, yeah, they're gonna have to account for them in the design of the, whatever water.
Well, that's how we interpret it. That is a paved driveway, correct?
He's calling them out as
Right now, it's
gravel,
gravel.
other than our paved aprons that we require, but that's still open to when the actual plot plans come in, but they're gonna have to provide for zero increase in runoff one way or another, whether it's gravel,
Oh, okay,
You know,
whether it's gravel or not.
right, exactly, or paved.
I have one concern with regards to the easement for the city of Waterbury water line. And at what point then, you know, it's not really, it doesn't really pertain to us, but I mean, it does pertain to the lot and the feasibility of a home being built on the lot as to when, what they have to say on this.
That is the responsibility of the property owner to contact the city of Waterbury to make sure that they are agree with what they're proposing. Yes.
So if we approve this and the city of Waterbury says you have to be 100 feet away, whatever. I
Then they
don't
can-
know, I don't know what that
Yes.
is.
Then he
Does it
cannot
come-
build
does-
it.
Does it come back to us?
No, he cannot build it.
No, but if the house gets moved around in the location, it goes.
Definitely. If there is additional regulated activities associated with the new proposal,
Right.
they have to come back.
So you'll put that in the motion.
It is one of our standard
Standard
conditions.
condition, right.
Yes.
Make a motion to approve the subdivision or the 2-lot subdivision. Mr. O'Sullivan's application here pending the approval of the city of Waterbury and with all due procedures in providing the subdivision plans then to the planning and zoning.
I don't know if we can leave this.
It should be subject to our standard conditions
Okay.
and those comments that the staff mentioned before, they should be included in the
The conservation
approval.
easement.
Yes.
The stone wall,
stone wall. Yes.
Markers.
markers.
Markers, yes.
Okay, and then as it was just mentioned, then that we have the conservation easement as part of that, as well as the stone wall meeting post 101 of the wetland.
Second.
Motion made in second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Any
No.
abstain? Motion carries.
Roseanne, there was one nay. Mr. Dalton.
Two, application 2022-6.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just thank the two people that have helped me put this package together. As you can see, it's quite complicated, but I'd like to thank Musa for his help in putting together some details, and also Paul for his help in putting together some details. So I didn't want to run out before I had a chance to say thank you to them.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Application 2022-6 of Kim Keegan for re-subdivision of an existing lot and construction of a single-family home driveway, on-site septic, underground drainage system on a new lot, 340 Bryant Road, Watertown.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant's engineer responded to all comments of the town engineer, myself, and the commission members during those meetings. And I drafted a motion for you to consider for tonight, your decision. And if you want to read it loud, that it will be a part of the record. And
Let's go through what you got to say.
Good evening. For the record, Brian Baker with Civil One, licensed engineer in the state of Connecticut. At last meeting, we went over the revised plans that were brought in. If you could go down 2 slides. One more. There we go. So these are the revised plans that were presented to you at the last meeting. We had responded to comments about moving the driveway to come off of Linkfield Road, which we did, and follow the old gravel road. The one additional thing that you see here was a comment that came up at the last meeting to ask if we could add conservation easement over the lots. So if you see, there's a blue line that runs along the top property line, comes along the wetlands edge, and then comes down through lot 2 is the lot on the left, all the way out to Bryant Road, comes across the frontage of Bryant and protects that whole wetlands area, and then runs all the way back. So between the 2 lots, that conservation easement actually covers over 32% of the property now. So your typical subdivision looks for 15% open space. So going above and beyond that, it also protects the wetlands, protects the regulated area, protects specifically the wetland in front along Bryant Road that was identified as a vernal pool. So should certainly suffice for the open space requirement for planning and zoning. And as this is a re-subdivision, when we go to planning and zoning, they'll have a public hearing in front of P and Z. So I believe we've addressed all the comments. We've minimized the regulated activity. Bob Smith has approved it, and we have answered all the questions and comments from the consultants or from staff. And if there's anything else, certainly be happy to
Paul,
answer.
was this run by the fire department, this driveway?
Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna have to check. I've got to, I confess, as our discussion earlier, I'm not sure what the status of this driveway is, if it was temporary or, according to Mr. Spina said, my public works director didn't see a record of this driveway being accepted, so I'm gonna have to look into this.
No, I mean the new driveway
Oh, the new driveway?
for the
and re-
fire, usually when it's, I know we on Franson Road, they made them make a pass by and big enough for the trucks to turn, when it's so over 700 feet long, I don't know how long that is, but.
Right, you have to have area to turn around at the top of the driveway,
Right.
Right.
and then you have to have bump outs.
Mhm.
Depends on the town apparently, but.
A
It's-
single, no, I mean, it's.
Because we did that on that,
No, you don't need the bump outs, but if it's just a single lot, single driveway. But you do need the turnaround, as you're saying.
right, at the
At the
top. there's
top,
gotta be
Right,
a-
we have a hammerhead turnaround at the top, and the driveway is about 750 feet long.
Right, I don't know what
The
the,
turnaround's big enough for a truck, not a car. It's gotta be big enough to turn.
I
the
forget what it is.
Fire apparatus.
If we need to widen that after meeting up with them, that's outside the wetland regulated area, so we could widen that up if we need to.
And Paul, regarding that, I don't know in the draft motion why it says 340 Bryant Road, because the driveway is gonna be off Linkfield. That should be changed. They have an address off Linkfield now.
You are approving the site plan, and it shows that the drive is from Linkfield Road
But why is it
for
giving,
this lot.
right, why is it giving a Bryant Road address?
The new
That
lot
is-
won't have a Bryant
that-
Road
the
address.
lot, the
No, but it
existing
says in our
lot,
motion,
yes.
that's all.
yeah.
Right.
It should be Linkfield, no?
Once they put the foundation, they get a new number for that new lot from the Public Works Department. The address will
Well,
be
there-
from Linkfield Road.
There is a number assigned to Linkfield Road now.
Okay. They have to use that number then.
That's fine.
And regarding like Paul, you got a question there, even though it's not in this application, but it is because this driveway off Bryant Road was never permitted, correct, by Public Works?
That's what I understand, Mr. Chairman, yes.
So if something happened, they're gonna be able to use this driveway for both houses? The one,
Yeah, they're gonna need, I guess, an easement for which lot, over each lot, they're gonna have to, it's gonna have to be filed at some point, the land records.
right?
Yeah.
Because the existing driveway's in the wetlands area too, correct, by this map?
Right, correct.
When they go to the Planning and Zoning Commission, that will be an issue for them. And the existing driveways, they own both lots.
Right.
They can give easement from one lot to another if they have to.
But we are proposing, based upon your recommendation, conservation
Yeah, and
restrictions.
then they
for
have
that
to
area.
cross the conservation easements. They have, yes.
Right, so we would have to be allowed in that case to cross the conservation easement with the driveway if that would be the case.
Okay.
But isn't the existing driveway, isn't the address of the house that's subdividing the land on Linfield Road?
No, that's
No.
340 Bryant Road is their
Their address
address.
is Bryant Road.
Right.
It was Linfield.
It was-
Somehow it got changed.
But at some,
Right,
I
yeah.
don't know what the
Nothing to do with
history
it, yeah.
is, but their mail is delivered to 340 Bryant Road. And that's where the house is.
And how is that conservation easement going to be protected? Is it going to be a fence or a stone wall or?
It'll be marked as your standard conditions are for markers every 50 feet.
It is in the motion, I put it.
Oh,
It's
is
in
it?
the motion. Yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions on this? Want to read the draft motion then?
Draft motion for approval, application 2022-6. Whereas the Watertown Conservation Commission Inland Wetland Agency has received an application from Kim Keegan for a two-lot residential subdivision and construction of a single-family dwelling as shown on a set of plans titled re-subdivision permitting set not for construction, two-lot residential re-subdivision, 340 Bryant Road, Watertown, Connecticut, tax map 34, block 28, lot 6B, sheets S 1.1 dated 8/2/21, C 1.1 dated 5/20/22, C 2.1, C 2.2, C 3.1, and C 3.2 dated 5/10/22, prepared by Civil One. Whereas the commission has evaluated the application according to the standards and criteria for a decision per section 10.2 of the regulations in carrying out the purposes and policies of section 22A-26 to 22A-45 of the Connecticut General Statutes, including matters related to regulating, licensing, and enforcing the provisions thereof. Whereas the agency has convened meetings on April 21st, 2022, May 12th, 2022, and June 9th, 22. Whereas the agency has held a site walk on May 7th, 2022. Whereas the agency has carefully considered all the evidence and testimony received at the meetings. Whereas the agency recognizes that inland wetlands and watercourses of the state of Connecticut and town of Watertown are indispensable, irreplaceable, and a fragile natural resource. Whereas the Watertown Wetlands Officer, Town Engineer, and Fire Marshal spelled wrong, reviewed and commented on the proposed development. Whereas the applicant engineer responded to all comments and recommendations of the staff and members of the agency. Now therefore be it resolved that the Watertown Conservation Commission Inland Wetland Agency finds that pursuant to section 11.1 of the Watertown Inland Wetland and Watercourse Regulations, the agency approves application number 2022-6 submitted by Kim Keegan, subject to the following conditions and modifications. The permittee shall notify wetlands enforcement officer in writing at least 3 days prior to the commencement of work on site and upon its completion. If the approved, number two, if the approved activities are initiated on or before June 9th, 2027, said activities shall cease, and if not previously revoked or specifically renewed or extended, this permit shall be invalid. Any request to renew or extend the expiration date of a permit should be filed in accordance with section 11 of the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Regulations of the town of Watertown. Expired permits may not be renewed, and the Wetland Agency may require a new application for regulated activities. 3, all work and all regulated activities conducted pursuant to this approval shall be consistent with the terms and conditions of this permit. Any structures, excavation, fill, obstructions, encroachment, or regulated activities not specifically identified and approved herein shall constitute a violation of this permit and may result in its modification, suspension, or revocation. 4, this permit is not transferable without the written consent of the Conservation Commission Inland Wetland Agency. 5, in evaluating this application, the agency has relied on information provided by the applicant. If such information is subsequently proved to be false, incomplete, or misleading, this permit may be modified, suspended, or revoked, and the permittee may be subject to any other remedies or penalties provided by law. 6, the permittee shall employ management practices consistent with the terms and conditions of this permit to control stormwater discharges and to prevent erosion and sedimentation and to otherwise prevent pollution of the on-site wetlands, vernal pool, pond, and other water courses. 7, no equipment or material, including without limitation fill. Doesn't make sense. Construction materials or debris shall be deposited, placed, or stored in the wetland or watercourse on or off-site unless specifically approved by this permit. This permit is number 8. This permit is subject to and does not derogate any rights or powers of the town of Watertown, conveys no property rights or exclusive privileges, and is subject to all public and private rights and to all applicable federal, state, and local laws. In conducting and maintaining any activities approved herein, the permittee may not cause pollution, impairment, or destruction of the inland wetlands and watercourses of the town of Watertown. 9, in the activity approved by the inland wetlands permit also involves activity or a project that requires state or federal approval, zoning, or subdivision approval, special permit, variance, or special exception. No work pursuant to the wetlands permit may begin until such approval is obtained. 10, the permittee shall maintain sediment and erosion controls at the site in such an operable condition as to prevent the pollution of wetlands and watercourses. Said controls are to be inspected by the permittee for deficiencies at least once per week and immediately after rains. The permittee shall correct any such deficiencies within 12 hours or 24 hours, I'm sorry, of said deficiency being found. The permittee shall maintain such control measures until all of disturbed soils at the site are stabilized. 11, a pre-construction meeting shall be held with agency staff prior to any site activity. A 24-hour name, address, and telephone number must be provided by the site construction manager, and a written notification is required 3 business days prior to any on-site activity. 12, there shall be no other on-site disturbance except what is proposed by the final plans and approved by the commission within the limits of clearing and regulated areas. 13, prior to the commencement of vegetation removal within regulated areas, disturbance limits shall be demarcated by surveyor and erosion and sediment controls installed. 14, the conservation easement area shall be field located and staked in the field by the applicant's surveyor engineer. The conservation easement area must be placarded on site. Where posting on trees is not possible, then the placard shall be posted on 4x4 posts 2 feet in the ground and 6 feet high. 15, conservation area markers are to be placed 1 every 50 feet along the limits of the conservation easement area. 16, a 2-foot high stone wall shall be constructed between the driveway and the wetlands from wetland flag number 1-4 to wetland flag number 1-6.
Oh, Paul, the only correction that the fire marshal hasn't approved this driveway, correct?
I believe that's correct, Mr. Chairman.
So that shouldn't be in the
She did,
the new driveway off Linkfield?
yes.
Oh, okay, but the letter talks about Bryant.
The last month, you had it in the packet.
No, that's about talking on Bryant.
It was
We-
talking
No,
about
from
Bryant.
Bryant Road, yes.
Right,
Yeah, she didn't,
not
approve.
Bruce
No one,
Linkfield.
nothing's been said about this driveway.
No, she approved the one from Linkfield Road.
I didn't think so. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
remember it being
letter.
for this one because we didn't talk about it.
Just 1 second. I may have it in the folder.
well, there's a copy here, Peter can read it. or Nate?
Yeah, this is the.
All right, so this is,
She's basically saying that Bryant Road is not a good option to use, and she recommended to use it, the Linkfield Road, the one that they changed to, and you recommended.
so this is to Musa Raffi, Assistant Planning and Zoning Enforcement Officer, Town of Watertown. From Kim Calabrese, Fire Marshal, Town of Watertown. Musa, after being informed and reviewing the proposed subdivision of 340 Bryant Road in Watertown, I wanted to inform you of some concerns that I have in hopes that you will take them under consideration. I would like to point out that the request for access to one lot via the unimproved section of Bryant Road would make it difficult for emergency apparatus to gain access to the new lot. Not only is the road not paved and narrow, approximately 10, 12 feet wide in most areas, it is also not maintained during the winter months. I understand that there is an alternate option for access from Linkfield Road. I strongly recommend that that be used to avoid any delay or even access denial in emergency arise. If you would like to discuss this further, please feel free to reach out at any time.
She basically recommended the one from Linkfield Road. She said that the Bryant Road is not a good idea.
But she doesn't say that it's been reviewed, and it's just saying that the other one is a better option. It doesn't say that she's reviewed it and made any changes.
That's the way I read it, but whatever.
She's just saying that to use the other one, but she hasn't made any recommendations. She didn't say anything about the hammerhead, which is a state statute. And the bump outs always were a regulation in town.
But that can be discussed with the Planning and Zoning
Right.
Commission.
Well,
Yes, it is,
that's fire marshal stuff.
yeah. Fire marshal can,
Right, but that's also going to change impacts on the wetlands, but
how?
the amount of impervious area.
No, but it depends on where you want to do that wider section. I mean, it can be outside of the regulated area.
Right.
This is just a draft motion.
Yeah.
You don't have to follow everything that I said. You can add to this. You can change things. It's just a draft. It's just a guideline for you to follow and then see what you want to change. But if you pay attention to item number 9 on the motion, that will tell you exactly. Your approval doesn't mean that tomorrow they can go and start building this house. They have to go through all those other steps. They have to go to the Planning and Zoning Commission, meeting all the zoning regulations. P&Z always send it to Fire Marshal for review. They send it to Public Works Department for review. Our job is to just focus on the wetland impact. Their activities are all within upland review area. It is just a review area. And if there is any recommendation that you want to make to protect the wetlands, this is the time to do it. The reason that I recommended that is stone wall, because that section of the regulation is next to the wetland. And if they put a 2-foot high stone wall, that will protect the wetland from the future encroachment, sorry.
And Paul, this goes the same thing with the driveway. If it's gravel or paved, it's zero runoff, correct? There's infiltrators, put it, whatever, however that works, because we always go through the same thing. They pave
Right.
it year after.
Yeah.
So it's figured as it's paved,
Yes.
correct?
I mean, please feel free to add something to this
Or delete
motion
it.
or change things.
Or change the fire,
Yes.
fire marshal out there. Moose, I don't know if there's wetlands there on Bryant Road, but how do you stop the construction driveway turning into a permanent driveway?
That's a good question for the Public Works Department.
Okay.
Yes, because they own they have jurisdiction over the right of ways. And anybody who wants to work within the town right of way, they have to go to the Public Works Department to get a permit.
Any widening of the driveway for access of an emergency vehicle will definitely impact the wetlands, because it's a very narrow area, that lower driveway. Which is the designated driveway actually for this property. So that is definitely going to impact wetlands.
Are
I-
you talking about the,
I-
I'm sorry, the driveway from Lingfield Road?
Yes.
Okay.
I respectfully disagree and would like to clarify. We just had the Bassett Road driveway that we had approved with the wetlands crossing. And in that case, we did do a bump out. We're not, you wouldn't widen the whole thing. If you widen it from 12-foot wide to 18-foot wide to allow for passage and have that bump out 20 feet long, that's not going to have any impact on the wetlands. And you know, if you would do it halfway up, you wouldn't widen it where the driveway is adjacent to the wetlands. You would widen it as you start it like halfway up.
I think it's usually the
Yeah.
halfway point.
Sure, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and in the,
But you're
big
figuring that in
picture
your
is-
calculations anyways, correct? If you make it 50 feet wide or whatever they, and I don't know what it is, but
right.
that'll be
right.
figured in the calculations of the runoff, correct?
Yeah, we're already in excess of the requirement and where we have a processed, when we say gravel driveway in engineering terms, that's processed gravel, which is, you know, put down, packed tight. For all intents and purposes, it's impervious. So when we do our calculations, we consider it impervious. There's no water.
I
When you
don't-
put down a processed gravel driveway and pack it down, there's nothing soaking in it. So the calculations are done assuming driveway completely is impervious.
Well, that's not always the case. Mine wasn't, mine had to stay gravel.
I don't know who designed your driveway or who spec'd it, but I know if you
The town
have,
says mine has to stay gravel, because
Yeah.
otherwise I'm
If
over the
it's-
impervious.
if it's
Right.
pea
If I
gravel,
pave it, it's
Yeah.
over the impervious, so I can't
It's
pave
over
it.
the-
yeah,
square
that has to do with the definition of pervious versus impervious.
Right.
If you look at runoff curve numbers for drainage calculations, it's 98 for
nothing.
pavement
Right.
and it's
Oh.
98 for processed gravel. The same amount of water runs off, but that gets into a definition of
Right.
what's pervious versus not, but.
Any other questions on this?
The only other point that I want to make is in case if you go to the Planning and Zoning Commission and they want to use this as a common driveway for both lots, that they deny you the access from Bryant Road, the applicant has to come back here to get an okay for crossing the conservation easement. Just for modification
Right.
of the permit, yes.
Right.
That's the only thing that's, I want the record to be clear that you can cross the conservation easement with the permission from this commission.
Understood.
If the Planning and Zoning Commission wants you to use that as a common driveway for both houses.
Understood.
I think that the stone wall should be extended to from, let's start, well, basically start at wetland flag 1-2 and go to 1-9 along the easement.
Some large map that it's easier for you to read. the one that we have in the packet.
That's-
Can you read it?
Yeah.
Just wanted to remember that the Wetland Commission approved that long driveway for this existing house. And at that time, there was no stone wall. I added that
Right,
as an extra piece of protection for
right.
the pond. But if you think that that is too short, we can discuss it. I recommended from wetland flag 1-4 to wetland flag 1-6. Because in that location, the drive is the closest to the wetland. And also, after 1-6, then the conservation easement kind of turns, and there is a wide area of conservation easement that covers wetland flag 107, 108,
that's-
and 109.
That's why I said follow
Yes.
the conservation easement, but to that point, to
Yes.
that distance.
So we were saying that to 1/6 net or no?
I was saying to 1/9. 1/6 and 1/4 are exactly in the, they're on the wetlands.
Right. Was that in the motion?
And I think our standard.
You can
thing of
change that if you want.
Weekly should be by staff and daily should be by the contractor for the sediment control. I think that should be standard. to be
I'm
honest with
sorry?
you. I think that our standard should for the wetland pollution control and whatnot should be checked weekly by us, by staff. And daily by the contract.
Yeah, you
They
should-
look at it every day anyway.
Yeah, you should hire somebody to do that. I'm only one person covering entire town of Watertown. I cannot be there every day to check.
Not every day, once a
No.
week.
I'm sorry, I want to say that it's impossible to do it.
Once a
Yes.
week. The contractor does it every day. They do it anyway.
Commission can recommend to the town manager to hire an inspector to do
Yeah,
that.
But
What are you gonna change? The fire marshal in that 16, the flag?
but
That is not that's not a wetland issue.
Right.
Planning and zoning commission will send it to
Okay.
the fire marshal again.
All right.
But I thought, my interpretation of that memo was that she's not in favor of Bryant Road, but she is supporting the other one, but she didn't.
the problem with that statement is to put the driveway on Bryant Road, the road would have to be improved anyway, so that's a
Mhm.
moot point.
Mhm.
You can't have a house on that road the way it is, so. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Many have been denied in the past already, so. Yeah, irregardless, because like Brian said, as long as it's been calculated as impervious, basically, adding one turnoff or bump out isn't gonna be a major deal. I think there should be more than that. Because that's how it's been in the past, but I think we looked at that and we came up that it was up to the fire marshal, correct?
Yes,
And there's no real regulation for that. Just in the past, they wanted one, and it wasn't the fire marshal in the past, it was Mary Barton or Green, and she wanted it, and they had to be a double, so it was, the driveway was 24 or 20 feet wide at the bump out and 18 or 20 feet long for the bump out. And they were every like 200 feet. But that's
you can.
why she
add-
made that, and I have no
At
idea.
that point, you
so-
might as well build a 20-foot wide driveway if you're gonna
Yes.
bump it out every 200 feet.
Right, but
If
that's
you
what was
want, you
required.
You can add to the motion another item that the fire marshal should review this,
Right,
this driveway in case if he recommends if she recommends something within upland review area, I will be authorized to approve that without coming to the commission.
right. No matter what you do. it's
Because
gonna
it
have
will
to
be a
in the upland
small
review
area
area.
within upland review area anyway.
Right,
And then you can say that you authorize me that in case if the fire marshal wants that, then I can just approve it without coming back to the commission.
Right.
Is that something that you want to add to the
Yeah.
motion?
yes.
You want to say it or what I said is, that's good enough.
Add what Musa said to the motion.
Oh,
Did you change anything else? The wetland flags?
Flag.
16,
What?
Stone wall.
yeah, the stone wall, you said.
Right, the stone wall, I
wanna
want,
change that?
I think should get changed. That's for discussion, but.
Anybody else have any questions or inputs? Yeah. The stone wall, okay.
I'm sorry. Did you say something?
Yes,
Yeah, I said if, it's not a huge extension of the stone wall, so they're putting it for one portion, just do it to where Ned recommended.
Okay. Can you mention the flag number that, because I need a reference point?
It's from 1-2 to 1-9
On the conservation
on the
easement line.
conservation easement line, right?
Right, not on the wetlands line, on the
No,
easement
no.
line.
good, Paul?
No, that would seem sufficient for a stone
Okay.
wall, Mr. Chairman.
Make a motion to approve application 2022-6. Given the guidelines that we just discussed. Putting into the minutes there with regards to the fire marshal reviewing this.
Motion made in second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor? All opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions?
Thank you.
Application 2022-8 of GT Holdings, Eva Maria Realty for the piping of a 60 linear feet of a water course at 1300 Main Street, 51 Straits Turnpike. Received a letter saying he's looking for a 35-day inspection, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant hired an engineer based on our recommendations on the sidewalk.
Right.
But the engineer is not ready yet to give you all the calculations in the plan. Therefore, they give you a 35-day extension. We just make a motion to accept the extension time and table.
Motion made in second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor? All
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? Thanks. New application one, application 2022-15 of 542 Davis Street from transfer permit from Eric Markowitz EDM Development LLC to Monroe Development LLC.
This is just a transfer of an
Yeah.
existing permit. You just need a motion to approve it.
Make a motion to approve this application.
Second.
Motion made in second. Any questions? All in favor? All opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Old business notice of violation issued to the owner, 30 Jericho Road, Watertown, and 2, discussion and application review process by the agency.
Nothing to report, Mr. Chair.
Make a motion to table this violation.
Motion made in second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor? All opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. New business, non-communications and bills, none. Reports from officers and committees. Chairman's report, no report. 2, report from Wetlands Regulation Review Subcommittee.
And the town attorney is reviewing the proposed changes to the regulations. I didn't hear anything from him yet. We can just table these 2 items.
Make a motion to table.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions on the motion? All in favor? All opposed? Any abstentions? Agent determination, A, application 2022-14 of Lodzem Kika for the construction of an addition to an existing single-family home within upland review area to be located 50 feet from the edge of the wetlands at 305 Straits Turnpike Water. And the second one was application 2022-12 of Adam Dubois for the construction of a 14 by 30 garage within the Upland Riviera YMC camp. Natasha, 270 Smith Pond Road, Watertown.
Mr. Chairman, item A is, it was an addition to an existing single-family home, and it is 50 feet away from the edge of the wetlands. I decided and approved the application. And the second one, if you remember at the last meeting, you authorized me to issue that permit 14 days after your meeting, and I did that.
Make a motion to accept and file both these applications, application number 2022-12 and application.
They're just my reports. You don't need a motion.
Pardon me?
These are my reports to you. You don't, yes, you don't need a motion.
Two, work in progress at the Watertown Dog Park.
I send you some pictures that I took from there, and if Paul wants to give the details.
Well, I was just by there today, Mr. Chairman. The grass is starting to become established. Actually, from the rain we had this morning, there was ponding in the rain garden area. And this would be on the center of the larger picture, I guess, that moves to, yeah, the overall view with the fence and the silt fence and their steel brook. And I have a list of plantings. I don't have it with me, but I will submit it to Musa for his review for what's going in the rain garden.
Thanks, Paul.
Yep. And if Musa has anything to add.
No, there is other pictures that shows that they are still working on it.
Public participation. Mike, is there anybody on the? Adjournment at 7:28, I guess.
Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn at 7:28.
All in favor?
Second.